Hey everybody, it's me, back with another video. Some of you know that I started out writing Sherlock Holmes stories, and I still do get questions about those from time to time. And I wrote some Sherlock Holmes stories, and then last year or the year before, I wrote a story called Professor Moriarty and the Demented Detective, and it was kind of a twist on Conan Doyle's Final Problem story. And one of the questions I get asked most often is about Professor Moriarty's name, because in my story, I give him the name Clarence. It's actually my dad's name. And people are like, why are you vilifying your father? But you need to read the story, because the whole point of the story is maybe Professor Moriarty was not evil. And you're getting to see Crowley back here. Crowley, my baby. So here is my reasoning. I know a lot of people think of Moriarty as Jim Moriarty, James Moriarty. And aside from BBC Sherlock, I'm sure there are other movies that have slapped that name on him. Oh my God, Crowley, really? That's lovely. But that is not Professor Moriarty's name. And what I have here is a massive volume of Sherlock Holmes. The very first paragraph from the Final Problem, Watson is writing about how he doesn't really want to have to tell this story. It's really hard for him to have to recount it, but, and I'll read from this here, my hand has been forced, however, by the recent letters in which Colonel James Moriarty defends the memory of his brother, and I have no choice but to lay the facts before the public exactly as they occurred. In other words, Colonel James Moriarty is not Professor Moriarty. James Moriarty is Professor Moriarty's brother, which is quite clearly stated in this story, the original story. So I gave Professor Moriarty a different name. I chose to honor my dad with his name. So that is why he's not Jim Moriarty in my story. A lot of people are like, but isn't Moriarty's name Jim? And I'm like, well, there is a Jim Moriarty. That's not the same antagonist as the one in the Doyle story. And so that's it. That's my short, quick, sweet explanation. I'll link to my story in the comments. And if you have other questions about it or anything else I've written, feel free to send it along.